Hello. Okay, so my name is Kay, and I really wanted to come here and speak about who I am, how I came to be. And real quick before we get started, I am uploading a video to YouTube, and for my podcast listeners, I am uploading to Spotify, Apple, wherever you stream your podcast from. So if you want to see me in person, as well as going to the podcast and just popping in the earbuds, that works too. We're in both places, as well as some Instagram and some Facebook. So whatever suits the soul. So yeah, let's get started on kind of who I am and where where I've come from in this journey. It's not going to be too long of a story. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty, and if you do want the nitty-gritty, you're going to have to dig a little deeper into my story because there's more to be said about what I've experienced. So, I am pretty much from New Mexico. The land of enchantment is what the whole state logo is. And it's exactly what it is. Like, it's literally the land of enchantment. Like, you are in a place of just beautiful desert. It is definite, sand land, but those sunsets and the thunderstorms are so worth it because you can see lightning strike from miles away, and it's the sound of the rain hitting the ground. It's different because the soil is not as soft as it is in the Midwest. And when I was young, my mom got married, we moved to the Midwest. So desert to really, really, really cold winters. I had pretty much experienced the snow in New Mexico was a dust, and the snow in Illinois became a blizzard, and there was negative 55 windshield. It just was too cold for my liking. And let's just put it this way, I had a lot to learn from this transition. So we had moments where, me and my mom, we were in a single parent, single mom raised household. So everything financially, food, supplies, all of it was from my mom, and that was all that I knew. And my clothes and everything, it was all provided by like family or the state. We did have a few family members. I did have a lot of like grandparents and uncles around, like around 5. I know like my last name, it's Hispanic originated, so it's really funny when people see me because it's definitely not what they expect because I come from Hispanic descent and indigenous. So I have a complexion of just very fair skinned. And when I go into the sun, I actually turn red and I start to burn. So it's really interesting because when I moved to the Midwest, it was like I belonged, but my name did not, or my features. So that was something that was very different because I was around like Hispanic culture, I was around indigenous culture, and living right there like by all these indigenous reservations. And it was just so beautiful because a lot of my culture was just based on just the old times, and the simplest memories were just going to markets and going and playing in the park in the sun. And then when I moved over here, when she got married, it was different because we expanded our family. There was a family of 5 instead of just 2, which is me and my mom. And I had brothers, and it was beautiful because it was a family. It was so fun because I was getting to play. I was getting to just, be that sister figure. And it was just so interesting because I knew now what it meant to be to take care of the siblings and be responsible for, household chores and to be part of a unit, And that was something that, I had with my mom, that we moved away from our other family. So it was definitely different because I had a lot of understanding of blood family and then what was married in. So I loved my family, but I was also considered this marriage to be blood family as well. And so I got really, really attached to my brothers that were a part of the husband's side. So fast forward some time, he didn't turn out to be who he was. And, we actually were brought up in Christianity. And there was a lot of reserved, conservative type beliefs and views. And, at the time I was so young, you do what the parents say. And it was always obey. And if you do not obey, you get punished by being, spanked or going to the corner. And it was very very old school, like very I feel like honestly it was like during what is it called? I can't even think of the word right now, but like pilgrim times, like colonial, because that was something that, it was very in line, very rule oriented, and freedom was something that I knew with my mom. So this was something that was very different and changed my life drastically. So now I had been in the church and I had this, father figure in my life now. So, ooh, see, it just came out. I don't know where that came from. But I literally was kept to be the daughter. I was the only daughter in the house. So he turned to be the molester, and from then on, for the next 5, 6 years, nope, 7, it turned to be one of the most interesting points of my life of how to keep a secret, how to be a diligent worker, how to stay in line, because if I were to get punished, it would have been even more so it wouldn't have any favoritism, because that would bring attention to my situation and I would be the revealed secret of what was going on. And so for the longest time, I'm not gonna lie, I had an extravagant lifestyle. I was being bought so many things, art supplies, gaming. I had Game Boys, I had stuffed animals. We weren't allowed to go outside though, and the only time that we would be was during the park district. So whenever they had swim team or tumbling or something like that. So I was very active as a kid, so I was able to try these different activities, just as long as it wasn't with other people, because that could be possible exposure. So it was me and the boys, so I was responsible for taking care of them. And it went on for quite a while. We were in downtown Chicago for literally 2 years. And in that span of time, I had become so distressed from being so in line and in a perfectionism type aspect. There was a lot of stress on the body. And the only reason why I know this, like the bacterial meningitis that had happened to me at 11 years old, this was a brain-eating infection. I later then, went to college and took anatomy, and bacterial meningitis was on the list. And I was able to figure out that it was stress-induced. So I had surgery, and, it was one of those things that I was army crawling to get to the bathroom. I couldn't hold ice chunks. It was a very big terminal illness. Like, I could have died. I could have had amputated limbs, vegetabilized, everything, but they caught it at an early stage. So keep in mind, the church has always been in my blood, Christianity, God for sure, but it's definitely been more restrictive, and I was in a very conservative, very rule oriented environment, and there was just pressure everywhere. I was a very in line, like an in kept type girl. And so keep going forward. He had referenced the Bible to get his way, to say that, this was something that, was allowed. But then I was taught, after I exposed everything by another preacher, that, it was used incorrectly, the Bible verse. So we go and we move, and I was educated by a school counselor because I was actually in this whole time frame homeschooled. So I was kept out of socialization. So a lot of like aspects of being with other kids, it was just very bizarre for me. I did not fit in, right? I was also, you know, like clothed. He would have certain things to wear, certain things to eat to make us look a certain way, like bigger, and our mannerisms. So the way we sat, the way we talked, the behavioral aspect, he was also monitoring very closely. So I was definitely under strict supervision. So fast forward, school counselor comes in, educates me, and I'm like, oh wow, like this is what's happening to me, having no idea because I was kept under such conservative aspects of my whole life, cultural, social, like all of it. Like I was just, I was brainwashed to not have any of it. Maybe, the Now 21 CDs every now and again, but that's it. And it was very interesting because once I was enrolled back into public school, I was the oddball. I was the outcast. I was a weirdo. I was a geek, but I was not a nerd because I didn't have the educational aspects of, the years gone by. So, moral of that story, I pretty much told the secret, and I saw him behind the, glass pane, and I just watched everything go by so fast. I was being questioned, and, he got prosecuted, and we moved because we had everything repurposed in the house and everything that was in it. So, the boys got taken away, and me and my mom were back to living in a home of single parent. But this time, there was a baby. So while I had bacterial meningitis, my mom was pregnant, and I was only with him because since she was pregnant, she was not allowed in the room. So whenever we moved, I was sick in February and the baby was born in June. So that August, I got enrolled, and then we moved halfway through my 6th grade year to Kansas to another conservative Christian type hospitality situation where they were giving us a home, but it was like a literal shack. Like there was running water, but there were bugs, there was dirt. It was gnarly. Like you could tell that it was minimal living conditions. And I'm grateful that we had a place to rest our heads, and we had state funded food like food stamps. But once we had our safe rated and the money was gone, we moved away because the Christian faith, we trusted that household, and they deceived us. So right from an early age, I knew, even from the whole situation with the stepfather, that trust was something very important and love was something very important. And at the time when I tried to speak up about it, I was denied, and I was like, it was all in my head. But once I started to describe the details to the counselor, that's when it became real. So then I started putting the pieces together of being deceived and having hypocrisy involved. So at sixth grade, I knew exactly what it felt like to scavenge for your meal, to have a place to rest, to enjoy the free things in life, going to the public pool. Like, I know it's gross, but like it was so much fun at that time. I was a kid, so I didn't really like sixth grade, you know, it was fun for me. So me and my mom and I was helping raise the sister. And this was at the point where I was becoming like a young adult at sixth grade, so 12 years old. And we moved from Kansas back to Illinois and had another Christian step forward and support and opened their home to us. But it was also a very conservative, constrictive type environment. So anything that was out of line, it was brought front view, very loud, and I was getting in trouble a lot. And I knew very familiar, behavioral. So that was something from very young I knew as well, like behavioral cues, when to step out of line, when to be in line, and what perfectionism kind of was. I didn't know that word with it, but I knew how to go about it, and I knew what to say and do to dance with that certain person. So I was able to fit into their liking. I was able to morph into whatever color they were feeling. So if they were feeling angry, I would be the one that was more calm. So I would be the exact opposite. Or if I really wanted to make them more so of what they were, I would be mirroring them, and it would trigger them. So I knew this from a very young age, and it was all because of the experiences that I've had. So at this point, I was a very sharp and very aware young adult, right? So that's when my emotions came in and my hormones were going off the wall because I had been so confined for so long that my emotions were just exploding at the seams. So I literally, I was just exploding with tears. I had raging depression, and I had attempts. I had some suicidal attempts. And I just want to say, if you ever need anybody, there is a phone number and a lifeline, and there's always someone to talk to. So if you are ever in need, do not hesitate to reach out. I can give you my, lifeline or the hotline to contact anybody. But I had a state provided counselor at the time, and they were guiding me through a lot of the trauma that had been settled into my system from the abuse. So when I got the counseling, stepping into seventh grade, I had no idea what was what. I didn't know social, I didn't know cultural, nothing. I was behaviorally and honestly, emotionally, and intelligently, I was different. I was just all around. My name was different. My body type was different. I was just different. And I tried to morph into the next environment to fit in or to sustain myself. And it was a surviving mechanism, being able to shapeshift and, fit into whatever aspect someone, was comfortable with. And I didn't know popular versus unpopular. I just knew how it felt to be bullied, and that was something that, being pushed around, slang terms, sexualized, the whole nine yards. And, coming from that kind of environment, I knew what aggression and abuse was. So I knew not to go down that path anymore, but I also was exploring my own path. And so I was a hardcore rock chick with goth makeup, and I would express myself in all extreme possible ways because I knew I was different. So then I was screaming it out to the world. So then, with that being said, there was just a lot of turmoil and aggravation and agony, tragedy. And so luckily, by the grace of God, my mom had found my dad because I had my biological dad gone since birth. And once we met, we were inseparable. Oh my gosh, we were two peas in a pod. And every summer I would go visit him for a month. And so I got to I didn't know the standard procedure to travel. So at first I took the Greyhound bus, and then I tried to drive to Oklahoma by myself at 16. And I just remember going on the road trip and seeing the beautiful landscapes and the different cultures and everything. So it's really recommended to go on a road trip, by the way, especially when you're by yourself. But stay safe. That's all I'm going to say. Like, stay safe, carry your precautions, because I got to say, those truck stops are just interesting. If you are not walking on the right path of protection on yourself, you will be challenged to step up for yourself, or else, something will happen. So I learned, my hard exterior of keeping myself hardcore, but as well as protected and safe, and smart, not getting mouthy with the wrong person. But also, I was able to explore and have adventures and see different walks of life. And once I had my dad, I just felt invincible. And so I was helping, raise the kid at home, taking, all the after school activities, and just, contributing to the house, doing chores, doing the dishes, running around at a young age, being very responsible. So I was a young adult, but not until I got my first job at 17, that's when I was like, okay, now I have income, so I can start paying off like for my car and, school. So I went to the community college, not too far away from the house, and I was going for dental hygiene. I was like, I'm gonna go and do this. And that's where all the, scientific classes came in, anatomy and microbiology. So I had a lot of educational aspects. And then out of nowhere, and I was like, all right, I don't want to keep going to school for this long, and the exams were minimal entry, so I didn't want it that bad. So I was like, I just want an associate's. So I literally went to school, got all this education, and then I changed my mind just to get the certificate. So I literally, after 5 years, just stopped going and got my associates, and I was in a resale retail job. So I provided enough funds to go to school and to have my fun weekends with the girls, or, some of the staff, we would go and hang out and just have a good time. And, we would be wildin'. Like, we would literally be like all over the place. But I knew what it felt like to have connection, unity, and, a society of just support. Like, I built my own community because I became the assistant manager at this place. So I became something of leadership and great unique expression, and through freedom of just going and exploring, but also making sure to stay true to yourself and not let anyone else define who you are, because of all the diversity and unique difference that I've experienced in my life. I knew no matter how much I shifted and shaped into whatever they wanted me to dress or be, it was not enough. So I was at that point, at that goth rock stage. I transitioned to the fashion, kind of just diverse colors and all of it, just all of it. So I gotta say, it's been interesting working at Plato's Closet for sure. So I definitely loved getting, retail brand labels for a very discounted price. But it also became a coping mechanism to avoid a lot of the, trauma and tragedy that I had faced at home. And, the new marriage that my mom had, after that experience had happened, we had moved into the house, and I was going into high school there, and then, I was still living there trying to go to college. and I was able to live there, tuition free, but it came at a price. I was working at my job as well as working at home, making sure that, all activities were taken care of, the homework was done, the dishes were done, the laundry was done, the dogs were walked. It was a lot of, obligation, and I thought it was owed of me. But after going through a lot of the shopping and going out too much, I started to form a coping mechanism. And I was having a hard time saying no, and I was having a hard time speaking up for myself because I didn't want to have disappointment, or I didn't want to have the one, figures of my life that have been there, giving me a feeding hand. I didn't want to disappoint or, say no to them because I knew that it wasn't something that they wanted. But then I started becoming more enlightened as the time went on. So I stopped going to school, and I was in choir for the longest time. So I loved singing, and I met so many beautiful people through music. And honestly, that is one of the biggest things that I learned, that when you sing, it sings from the soul. So honestly, you'll probably get a podcast with me singing here at some point. So I honestly am so happy that I was able to experience music and the culture of sound, because it is healing. It is very healing. The vibration, the frequency, and everything, it heals the body. So college ends, and I'm coming, out of the retail experience, and about 2 years after the college ends, I had my owner retire at the store, and I was left with, what do I do now? And so coming from, the sticks and not having, you know, much to have like rich wise, I knew that it was a working progress. So you have to put effort into getting money. And so I was like, all right, where is there a place that I can get money for, a decent work, but work that is, smart work. And I didn't want to be in labor work anymore, because the service industry, I threw out my back. I had to get physical therapy, chiropractor worked on like for a good year, because I just didn't know how to lift. I didn't know how to work out. So my body was just out of shape. So I went to corporate America, and it was the most transitioned time of my life. I became awakened at that state. I found myself in a bullied environment. The person that was next to me constantly had criticized the way I looked, the way I talked, and it was back into that, same pattern of, behaviors and treatment. And I was getting it from home, I was getting it from work, and, socially, like I was feeding off of my friends to support me and to uplift me, and it wasn't enough. And I started to serve my friends in order for them to hear me. So I was serving myself so many different places at the bottom of the barrel, to the point where I numbed myself out, and I became lifeless. I became completely numb, and I just lost myself. And then, my second depression wave hit at 22 years old. I was very just stagnant. There was no point of life. There was no taste. There was no sound. I was lifeless and moving without intention. Self-development found me in January and changed my life, and I became awoken, and I became sharp and started to heal and recognize my path and my warriorship, and I started to acknowledge myself, and I am embodying light, exuding love, having self-respect, self-care, and I'm forever changed. And I'm here now as a personal development coach to embody love for yourself and all the care that's needed to really uplift and motivate and empower yourself. I am here to share energy light. I actually transmute energy, and I can actually heal a lot of stuck energy that's in the body. I do sound baths, which also heal and exude out any of that energy that's also stuck in your body. So it heals your mind and your body in that sound bath process, as well as doing oracle card readings. So I actually had a card pulling today from my Starseed Oracle deck, and I give intuitive readings. So it's a card that calls to you at that moment, the message that you need to hear. And then I can combine my coaching with it. So I give you coaching skills to how you can get out of a situation that you are currently consumed by. But I can give you skills and I can give you solutions, but it's up to you to heal. And that was my biggest transition out of anything, that it was my healing that I had to do. So this is a journey of awakening. This is a journey of replenishment, regeneration, and embodying that person that you want to be, that leadership, that expressive creation. I also do genuine expression opening. So if you're having hard times expressing yourself or opening yourself into a vulnerable, open, sensual, pleasurable, like going outside and enjoying the nature, or pleasure by enjoying food, a lot of the taboo situations, we always feel like it's wrong, but there's no such thing as right and wrong. So honestly, if this resonates, if it rocks your world and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, girl, I feel this is something for you. This is something that I really encourage you to reach out and talk to me about, because this is my life. This is what I believe in. And if you don't know what Reiki is or energy, look up what chakras are, because even Dr. Joe Dispenza, oh my goodness, I met Shmina Taylor and she led me into this world of self-development. And Tony Robbins is also a big influence, but it's also supporting your diverse women in the industry. So if you are interested in a lot of this personal development, go with the diverse and the unique and truth-seeking, leaders of this world. And I only embody light, truth, love, and freedom. And I encourage all expression, and I encourage all just fluid colors of what pours out of you, because you are beautiful and exquisite just the way you are. And no matter what anyone says, you are definitely different from everyone else out there. So I'm gonna say that this has been fun, and I come to you now saying that I found true love. I found personal development and changed my world completely. I had plant medicine introduce a whole different aspect of perception and beliefs and integration of what healing can really do, and what self-love and nurturing and nourishment really does to a soul, and what qualities bring a soul to life. So I love you.